So if you're going to sit there in your basement and build the product to perfect for who? It's perfect for you, and then you're an audience of one.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of No Followers Podcast. I'm T. This is Bob. We are going to talk about the perfect is the enemy of the good, which is a phrase that has come up a bunch since we have been...
Technically, that phrase never came up.
Yeah, well, I mean, sorry, I'm getting a phone call.
First one of the day for T. Look at that.
Keep it all in.
Mom's calling.
It is my mom. No, it's not. It's a phrase that I repeated. I didn't make the phrase up, but as a common theme, as we've been doing like applicant interviews and talking to people about coming in through the incubator and working with us and entering our commercialization pipeline, because there's a thought of, whenever I hear the word pipeline, I think of Hawaii Five-0. Sorry. You want to do some random word association?
That's fine.
Pipeline. No. Okay. Just me. So I had a phone call the other day with someone who we were talking, and he had a product idea, and he was still in the design stage, but he was basically saying like, yeah, right, I want to go through the design stage and raise a bunch of money to perfect the product, and then we'll think about commercialization. And we were having the conversation. This is a recurring theme that if you do it right, or you do it smart, I'm not going to say what's right or wrong, for an individual who is self-funding, you should know your product market fit before you ever get to perfect product, because you don't know the definition of perfect.
There's no such thing as perfect.
Yeah.
Which is the other issue.
Well, we're big on like setting your design goals, right? So like, what are you working for?
Yeah, but that conversation you had is almost at a different stage of the interview I took in the other day, where the person isn't thinking about commercialization. The inventor's like, I'm going to design this perfectly and bring it back to you guys, and then we're going to go to market with it. And I was like, you can't go to market without knowing who the customer is and design it for the customer. You're designing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Which means nothing to us, and it's a waste of your time and money.
Yeah.
But I'm not mentioning names, but he was adamant. He's like, I'm building this to perfection, then I'll bring it back. I was like, you're wasting a ton of money and time.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, take it from me. Like, look at everything I do with the frame and the suspension and everything. It's not trying to achieve perfection. For me, it's a safety, making sure that it's safe before we put people on it. And it's a large task to undertake. But if you're out there searching for perfection, your definition of perfect may have nothing to do with why a customer will pay you for the product. If I tell you that we're going to spend a ton of time making a perfect product and it's going to look great, and that's all subjective. What your goal in the early design process, in my opinion, should be two things. One, set clear design goals. So what are your top 3 design priorities? We say it all the time. You can do one thing the best. You can do 2 things well. You can do 3 things average.
Okay.
Yep. And then once you move past that, you're probably just going to float into the mediocrity of the industry.
more features doesn't mean bigger market share.
Yep.
It never does.
And so what's important is figuring out what features provide benefits to your customer, because that's why they'll pay you. So don't focus on making it perfect. Focus on setting your design goals to test it. And I don't just mean function test it. That's one part of it. That's proof of concept. Does it work? I mean, test it in the hands of who you think your target market is.
But you also brought up another point, is certain products that we see have such a big safety issue that you have to focus a lot of time on the safety aspects before anybody can actually test it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are a lot of moving pieces for solo inventors and solopreneurs.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you were setting me up there, but I'm going to roll that into that's why we're here, is because the whole point of us being here is that as a solo inventor, or even as a small team, you have a lot of stuff to tackle. So our job is to take some of that off your plate and help you focus on the things you need to do while we focus on what we are here to help you with. we may be here to help you with design, fabrication, prototyping, but we're also here to help with the customer interaction side to figure out
Customer experience,
Yeah, what is your
user.
product market fit? Do you need it focus group tested? Are you focusing on the right market? You think
Well,
your target
that's a
market-
huge question that we always get into arguments between us, but also with our members. There's a lot of targets you can go after. And I was not setting you up with that question. I was just kind of keeping up with the conversation.
Yeah. No, listen, it wasn't accusatory.
Pipeline.
The ventures. Now we're
Target
free word
markets.
association.
There are a lot of target markets that you can go after.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to go after everyone. I say this all the time. It's going to lead you to failure. There's a lot of target markets to pick one off. What we're trying to get to is the alpha that's going to move the needle the most so that we can do all the others. Yeah. And that's sometimes really hard to find. But going back to your UVPs and what people really care about, that's also prioritizing design elements. This is what they really care about. I mean, we've had a lot of products in here like, it has to do this, this, this. And we're like, who told you this? And they're like, I think it. Once again, the I is a disaster, right? But I think the perfection thing, there's no perfect, and there's different stages of close to perfection. And the stages we always talk about, proof of concept, prototyping, then iterating till we get to manufacture ready. That's a lot of different products in there. There's a lot of things going on. So if you're going to sit there in your basement and build the product to perfect for who? It's perfect for you, and then you're an audience of one.
Yeah. And you are not, like you say, you're not your customer. But even if you say, well, I had my friend test it, I had my friend use it, or I gave it to 10 buddies, the two questions I always have are, one, are they your perceived target market, right? Because this is the scientific method, right? You have a hypothesis, you test it. You have a control, you have a variable, you do all these things. It's the same thing with product market fit and customer testing. But the more important thing is, and this is where we get pushed back too, is a lot of times for inventors, they think that their initial pilot or their test should be free. And the problem that we always say is if they are not giving you money, I don't care what it is, should be something, that is feedback with an asterisk next to it, because they're not really invested in the product. If I give you a motorcycle with my frame and you ride it and you go, it's great, man, I love it. And I go, great, that's $70,000. And you go, whoa, I thought it was $20,000 great, not $70,000 great. It's a different customer feedback. So having that money, having that pay-to-play situation for your testing is important. It matters. It can change completely. You know, we're working with a couple closet products right now. Each of the pilots are paid. Everyone has skin in the game. So now when they give us feedback, it's not just, oh, thanks, it's better than what I had, I love it, thanks for the free closet. It's, I love it, I hate it, here's what I love, here's what I hate.
Here's what I thought that I was getting that I didn't get. I mean,
I think that this is worth this, not this. And listen, it could be higher, lower, right on par, but it's all part of what you're doing. So you could, once again, spend 6 figures making it perfect, thinking of someone in particular here, spend 6 figures making it perfect for you, and then we test it, and your target market hates it. You missed. It's an expensive miss when you spend a lot of money working on perfect for you.
I would say out of all the members and clients we're working with, the biggest disagreements we have is when we get a corporate potential partner that we always put a price tag on it. We are not doing this with that. I don't care how big the corporation is. We are not doing it for free because we're not going to get what we need out of it. And that's usually the biggest conversations we have.
Yeah. I know, listen, it's easy to feel like if you're the little guy in the, in the big pool or whatever analogy you want to use. I've never heard that before. I just made that up.
Right, oh, you did?
Now.
Another one?
Little guy in the big pool. Fat guy in a little coat is usually what I am.
Wow.
But it's easy to feel like, all right, this is a new product. I'm trying to test it. I want your feedback. Just test it and let me know how it is, and don't worry about paying for it. That's an easy move, but you're just cutting yourself short.
Well, you're also not learning.
Yeah.
Because in that interaction, right, the interaction of here's the price tag, this is what we're going to do, you get a lot of feedback that you would never get if you're like, here it is, just go and use it.
Right.
And the feedback for us is the gold. That's
Yeah.
the mining. Like that's magic because
Yep.
now I'm getting the words they use. I'm getting what they're really focused on, which tells us about priority design. They're like, they don't care about that.
Right.
They care about that. And I'm
Right.
trying to be as generic as possible so it fits everybody that's listening to this, right? What you focus on as the product value or benefit, if the customer is or the user is not saying that to you, it is not the benefit.
One of my favorite examples of perfect is the enemy of the good is Apple and the iPod and the iPhone. If Apple said, we have a great new product, it is a all-in-one device. It does music, it does pictures, it does cell phone, it does yada, 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 right? That is a great device. Without the iPod, they never would have gotten to the iPhone because they would have run out of money. They needed the iPod to revitalize the company, to be able to invest, to be able to do all the things they needed to get to the iPhone. You know, so if you are we talk about it all the time, as a small company or as an inventor or founder, every company has limited resources, but you may only be able to go after one market before you're out of resources. It is better to go after the market that you have validation in, right? So if you have a product that could work in kitchens, bathrooms, and closets, and you have validation in closets, and you go, well, I always thought it was a kitchen product, so I'm going to go after kitchens. Well, now you have no excuse for why you ran out of money because you had validation in closets and you didn't want to do it. So you got to listen to the market and go after it.
But also the other thing is we get a lot of people like, I'm going to make this product and then I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
Right? And business, and we say this, it's not static. Anybody running a business knows that they can't live on their laurels or their past. Everything changes. Using the Apple one, iPod opened the market for them, gave them money and success to create all the other products because they know that somebody else would come along and do a better job with the iPod.
Yeah.
There's always somebody out there looking to take you out.
Yep.
So it's the continuum of business. And, you can invent one thing and live off of it. But if you're building a company, you probably can't live off of one product.
Right.
And if you can, you're probably in a very narrow niche, typically. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always product diversification and amplification. And
Yeah. But yeah, the moral of the story for us from where we're sitting is have clear design goals, get your product through proof of concept, have people pay you to test it so they have a vested interest in it, and then listen to that feedback. That's the big thing is check your ego outside because that feedback they give you might be your ticket to success. They might be spot on. They might say, I hated it as this, but I would love to use it as that. And you may find $1 million industry in that, but you have to be open and willing to listen to that feedback. They could be dead wrong, but they could be right.
so let's give, we always like to give people practical things they can do on their own.
Yeah.
And then we even do this with our members in the cohort. Is like, here's what you're going to go out and do. Bring back the intel, and we'll kind of round table or brainstorm on the intel because everybody reads intel differently. If you have a product idea, try to put it together with things around the house. Could be cardboard, whatever. And then just don't say anything and just ask people what they think it is.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times that kind of, you're biasing people's take on what you're doing because you're telling them too much. Like we do this in focus groups. We leave it on the table, walk away and see how people, the first thing they touch, because that tells us what might be most important to the look of the design, right? So I just think everybody should do that. And sometimes we do that with people bringing in their prototypes or their proof of concepts here. We're like, don't tell us, let us look at it and tell us where we're wrong.
Yeah. Let me see how I use it.
Yeah.
And I guess, if I may, Your Honor.
When have you ever listened to me anyway? So
if there's one homework assignment for me, it's to actually write down your design goals and rank them in priority.
give us an example of a design goal.
So my bike frame, the Type 57X, right? The suspension has to be integrated into the rear frame members. It has to be removable and it has to be serviceable.
But that's not where you started, was it? Was those your original design goals?
No, my original design goals were it had to look like a hardtail frame. I had one goal.
There you go.
That was it.
But I'm just saying to
Yeah.
simplify it for people that are like, I don't even know what you're talking about, T. Which
But I didn't
is-
have 14 goals. My goals were it has to look like a hardtail frame and accept 19 different motors. And all that stuff is stuff that ideally, after you get your proof of concept, you will be paid to create, right? Harley says, we want to see what our bike looks like on your frame. You do a paid pilot. They pay me to figure out how does my frame look with their configuration. Boil it down to the least common denominator, right? There's a lot of different e-bike systems. There's Bosch, there's Pinion, there's Shimano. We decided to build a pedal bike because that was our UVP and our differentiator. It wasn't the motor, it was the rear suspension. The rear suspension, we proved it works. We had proof of concept. We can get rider feedback. Now, figure out which e-bike system it adds the most value to. You know, so we're not pigeonholed into Bosch or Shimano or
the
whatever.
other thing that I want the viewers or listeners, depending on what platform they're on, to take away from that is also do your research. Like we get a lot of applications because one of our questions is, who are your competitors? What are you replacing? And they're like, none.
Yeah.
This is a first of a kind. There's nothing first of the kind. Everybody has a way of getting to there.
Mm-hmm.
Your solution might be better.
Yeah.
But they're already figuring that out on their own. There's no product that immediately solves some new problem on this planet.
Well, and
There's ways around everything. But
Yeah.
you just heard from T all the research he did. He knew all the competitors. He knew all the designs. Do some of that. We do
Yeah.
a lot of that here when you come in. We're
And it's okay
researching.
it's okay to know what you don't do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like our bikes are not targeting road bikes. It's not our target market.
But that's down the line, though, from the earliest.
Yes.
Well,
Well, no,
the
I think
earlier creators.
Well, I think it's part of your design goals. If you don't know who you think your target, and you can test it and find out you're wrong. All the testing we've done so far on the bikes, quite honestly, has shown that we've been right in what we've targeted so far. But your design goal, in my opinion, if you know who you're creating it for, it's easier to rank your priorities, right? So if I say if I say all of my priorities are boom, 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 I got 10 number one priorities. It's just not going to happen.
Never going to happen.
It's just not going to happen. You got to know what you want and what you're going after, because those goals should also be important to your target market. You know what I mean? So weight, it's a bike. Weight matters, but it's not a road racing bike where we're shaving every microgram off. We looked at the market. We said, this is the bike we're targeting. We looked at the weight of those bikes and said, that's our target weight, 32 pounds, fully loaded. Our bike with suspension is 32 pounds, fully loaded. That was the goal, you know?
And
so
I'm just going to put a different spin on this conversation because we're getting a lot of inbound and business owners who don't have products. And I'll talk about our design goals of why we're doing this podcast, why we built the incubator. One is because we saw a lot of theory being announced as validation that they knew what they were talking about. And we know, and we came into this saying we're going to gladly share our failures with our audience as much as our successes, because we learn more from failures and people are afraid to talk about failures. So our design goal for us is just that brutally honest conversation, even when we turn the light on ourselves.
can I jump in for 1 second? I want to cut you off.
You cut me off all the time.
I want to cut you off. But I also want to say, if we've had a few guests before, we're booking more guests for upcoming months. If there's anyone that comes on this show, the expectation flows through. If you are not willing to discuss your failures with us in order to help people that are listening so that they don't feel like they are failing in a vacuum, I'm not interested, man. I'm not. You're so good that you've never failed. Come on.
Right, but also talking to just the business owners that are listening for nuggets of business takeaway. I'm trying to correlate, right? Yeah. Hard product design has so many elements that other services or businesses don't have, especially in the digital age. There's a huge component that never gets talked about in all these other think tanks, incubators. They just gloss over it. The safety factor, right? There's so many different elements, and that you can't just fix it on the fly. You have to bring it back and redesign it. That's one of our design goals of doing this. The second one was to avoid the preaching of people who talk about theories that you can never apply in the real world. You just can't. The theory is one thing. You read it in a book, you keep it in the back of your head, but then you have to apply it. And I go back to our earliest days at the film company. I was bringing in people that had degrees in film, and they didn't know how to set up a light stand. Like, fundamental thing of filmmaking, you need lights.
Sure.
Right? They couldn't do it because they were so theoretical. So we're trying to take some of the theory out. And when we speak, we're talking about from real experience. Like, we're living this. We had these conversations. We heard probably 4 or 5 times this week, I want to design it perfectly. And then our question is, perfect for what? And then they just look at you.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just trying to kind of correlate the business side to it. That anything we're talking about can apply to just general business. Like, know your customer, right?
Well, this is, I mean, we're rolling overtime, and we can
We're
roll,
overtime again?
we can roll this into another episode, but
I can't go anymore.
this is...
It's in my contract.
All right, Bob, it was good to see you. This is something that I think, you know, we've all walked in both, not we've all, but we both have walked in both worlds, blue collar and white collar. And there is a very distinct difference when you roll into the white collar world if you work for a company that doesn't have a tangible output. And the thing that I come back to is a lot of the things that are forefront in a hard good business or industry still apply, like process, like knowing you're having clear design goals,
But you can make
effectively
more.
communicating
You
them.
can make more mistakes, and I'll pick on software and SaaS. We built a lot of that tech.
Yeah.
We made a lot of mistakes dropping it out, but then we patch them, right?
100%.
We can't do that with a bike that somebody's riding.
Oh yeah, I mean, we talk about this all the time. Like it's a different definition of MVP.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, my minimally viable product for a bike frame is different than yours for software on how to build bike frames. Because again, you can push patch. Tesla, I hate them to death, but
I'm shocked. I've never heard that before.
they had that problem with the gas pedals.
Getting attacked by bugs here
They
because T needs his fresh air.
I like fresh air. You know,
So
they,
do I, but-
they had to go physically repair the gas pedals that were sliding off the junk Cybertrucks. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't, for
You
all
gotta
that,
let go of this bitterness.
well, for all that they say they're a software company, you're not fixing that with a patch. You know what I mean? You're going out and you're riveting, but that was bad design, garbage design to begin with.
Are we over time? We got to wrap
Yeah,
this
we're
one up.
over time, Bob. I gotta go.
All right, wrap it up then.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Follow, like, subscribe, No Followers Podcast, First Strike Incubator, and we'll see you next time.
That was it.
Yeah,
That's it.
that was good.